positive that you all know a little about our American flag. What comes to your mind when you see or hear about the American flag? Well, maybe an eagle or an old soldier. Well, today I'm going to be sharing with you a little about the American flag. In 1776, when George Washington was elected president, he thought our country needed a flag, so he went to his friend who was a seamstress named Betty Ross. Now, they had already planned the design for the flag, but they were arguing over whether they should do a 5-pointed star or a 6-pointed star. And Betsy complained that she had to do too many of these stars, so they decided to do a 5 because she could do these very quickly. The same year, the Grand Reunion flag was made, with 13 red and white stripes and the British Union in the left top corner, which is basically the British flag. This flag was made over 15 copies and carried into war in the Civil War, because that was when it was around. And on June 14th, 1777, the first official flag was made, with the blue Union in the top left corner and 13 stars in a circle, and the same 13 red and white stripes. After Vermont and Kentucky were added to the Union, 2 more stars were added to the Union, and this was in 1791 and 1792. So 2 more stars and 2 more stripes were added, so that makes 15 stars and 15 stripes. Now, in 1795, the 15-star and the 15-stripe flag inspired Francis Scott Key to write our national anthem, which is the Star-Spangled Banner. And in 1818, 5 more states were added to the Union, and this again, 5 more stars were added. And it did change the 15-star flag back to the 13-star flag because they thought it represented the 13 original colonies better. And when the last state was added, Hawaii, all the states in the land were decided on in the USA. And on July 4th, 1960, the official flag came out with 50 stars and 13 red and white stripes. And that's the flag we use to this day. Now, an interesting story you might not know that is around 1958, when Alaska and Hawaii were being considered for statehood, that means that they were not really states yet. They were wondering if they should make them states. So President Eisenhower, who was the president at the time, he needed a new design for the 50 or 49-star flag. So he collected over 1,500 designs for the flag. Most of them were 49 stars, but most of the other percent was 50. What am I talking about? The other percent were 50 stars. While 17-year-old Robert G. Heft, who lived in Ohio, had a school project to create and turn in one of these designs. The teacher originally gave him a B-, but she joked around that if it got accepted by Congress, he would raise his grade. But not only did the design pass Congress, but President Eisenhower chose the design to be the flag of the United States. The teacher kept the agreement and gave him an A+. Better, couldn't he? And to this day, he's given accreditation for the design of the American flag. Now, what do all these strange colors and stripes and stars mean on the flag? Well, the white represents purity and innocence. The red equals hardiness and valor, and the blue Union, which is the blue square, equals diligence, perseverance, and justice. And the stars represent the symbol of the heavens and the divine goal God has set before man to achieve. And many of us forget about these meanings and put them past us, but we forget the original meaning and what it stands for. Now, there are many special rules that you must abide by to take care of the flag respectfully. Now, some of these you might not have heard before, but there's a lot of them. But I'm only going to mention a few today. Now, if the flag is hung over a street, which it had to be a narrow street with tall buildings, the blue Union must be in the left corner on the right side of the street. So if you're coming down the street on the right side, the blue should be in the top left corner. And if another flag is flew with the American flag, like the California state flag flew with the American flag, there would have to be on two separate poles at the same height, and they would have to be the same size. Now, there's a half staff is when the flag is raised up to its highest point and then dropped down to the half of the pole that it's hanging on. And they do this for national tragedies, such as like the Twin Towers falling, or if someone really important dies, such as a president or someone else important. And if the flag is hung out of a window, it must be on a pole and with the blue on the very tip of the pole. Now, if it's used to cover a casket, which this is usually in military conditions, the blue must be on the left shoulder of the casket, and it must not be allowed to touch the ground. Maybe you've heard this, but if it touches the ground, it must be burned, and in its folded state. There's a special way to fold it, but there's a lot of directions to it, so I'm not going to tell you how to fold it. Now, there's a lot of these rules, so I'm not going to tell you all of them today, as I said. And yeah, so maybe most of you have heard these facts in the past, but my hope is that you've learned something new. Or better yet, reminded of how important our flag is and what it means to the best nation in the world, the United States of America.